More, let's cross to Washington and correspondent Kethavane Gorjestani. Kethavane, as we've seen in the past with Joe Biden speaking to reporters, you're always wondering, was this scripted or did he go rogue?
That's exactly the question here in Washington. Was this a blunder or was this calculated by the president? The president, for the third time in about 9 months, saying that the U.S. would come to the military aid of Taiwan if China were to invade Taiwan, were to attack Taiwan. And the White House, just like the two previous times, minutes after that comment, putting out a statement to sort of do a little attempted cleanup of those remarks, saying that the U.S. policy has not changed. Now, there are two things. One is, yes, in those comments, Joe Biden did repeat and reiterate the fact that the U.S. is not changing its one China policy, meaning that it recognizes that Beijing is the sole representative of the Chinese government, and it acknowledges, even though it doesn't fully officially recognize, that Taiwan does in part belong to China. The other thing that he reiterated is the Taiwan Relations Act, meaning that the U.S. has the commitment to give Taiwan the military means to defend itself. The problem with these comments is that they sort of expose the strategic ambiguity that the United States has maintained towards Taiwan, meaning that the U.S. never really said whether or not it would intervene to protect Taiwan, and that is what Joe Biden has done now for a third time. The White House trying to downplay this, saying that what he meant was that the U.S. would militarily support, meaning it would send weapons as part of the policy. But when you hear the full question asked by the reporter to the president, she clearly makes the distinction, saying, you did not, and you were clear that you would not send troops in Ukraine, send military enforcement in Ukraine. Would you be willing to do that, to intervene militarily in Taiwan? And the president said yes. That is the commitment we have. We'll see the developments here in Washington and how the White House answers those questions about whether this is a shift in policy or whether this is something that the president just said off the cuff.
And it's also, once again, Kethavane, this is a president who ended the U.S. presence in Afghanistan, and yet he's talking tough at the same time on both Russia and China.
Yes, and this is why some here in Washington believe that this was not completely an off-the-cuff remark and that this was a message sent to China, because he is in Asia doing that very important trip both to South Korea and Japan to really show U.S. presence and to reinforce the alliance around the United States and to fend off the influence of China in the region. And so these remarks at this time during this trip are not completely out of context, and you have to see it within the situation right now. The United States, of course, had to, because of what is happening in Ukraine, really refocus everything on Europe. But at the beginning of his presidency, Joe Biden wanted to make China his focus. That was really the number one foreign policy priority, was to fight off the economic, political, military influence of China in the region and around the world. And so this is what is happening right now. And the fact that the president made these comments during that press conference and compared the situation between Ukraine and Russia with the situation between Taiwan and China is not completely off the cuff. And it seems that the president was trying to get at least a point across to Beijing.
Kethavane Gorjestani reporting live. Many thanks for that update from Washington.